Hi, this is a lecture on what changes in science, literature, and art and society occurred during the post-war era. What I want you to understand, the link is the age of uncertainty. After World War I, the world was very uncertain. People were disillusioned. They had felt lied to. That's what disillusion meant, is that they felt lied to by their governments. And science kind of leads into this. Einstein, my favorite picture of Einstein because he's being completely irrational. And what he does is, in his theory, E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the square of the speed of light. He basically proves, or not proves, but he theorizes that space and time are not constant. And these concepts, that since space and time are not constant, creates that feeling of uncertainty. In addition, you've got this guy, Freud, and he theorized that the human mind is not rational, but it's irrational, that we're all driven by the irrational part of our mind, the unconscious. And most famously, he comes up with the Oedipus complex, that every boy wants to kill their dad and marry their mom, and they're driven by those unconscious desires. And those scientific theories really, in the post-war era, become popular and make everybody feel very uncertain or disillusioned, that feeling of being lied to. So they're disillusioned again here in tone after the Great War. Most famously in literature, here's a very popular poem, The Second Coming. Turning and turning in the widening eye, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed time is loose and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all convention, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. So people felt disillusioned. They had felt lied to by their governments and their cultures. And the literature in this type of poetry in the age of uncertainty kind of reflected that tone. This is my all-time favorite painting. This is The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali, and he was disillusioned as well. And you can see the influence of Freud and Einstein in the painting. And he was a surrealist, where he was trying to show the absurdity of life. And you can see his attack on the rational part of the mind, because he's painting the dreams, and in his dream he's seeing the melting of clocks and somehow the death of man, and these ants here are feasting on the clocks. So people start to, this is the tone of the interwar period, the period between 1919 and 1939. In the next slide, music. The type of music that's very popular is jazz music at this time period. It's uninhibited and it's improvisational, and it breaks from the classical form. It's a rejection of those romantic ideas where the state was all great and you wanted to promote nationalism. Now, in the interwar period, you have a feeling of breaking away from those norms. Women gain the right to vote, and they really begin to abandon this restrictive clothing, most famously with the flapper style, with the short hair, the short haircuts, and the short skirts. And so these are flapper women dancing in the flapper style. It's kind of a retro movement in some areas. Travel also changes. We have mass production by Ford, automobiles. Charles Lindbergh flies across the Atlantic, so the world is really changing in that regard, and that changes society as well. We're no longer kind of put in our own areas. We can really communicate with the rest of the world, and as well as with entertainment. This is a very famous movie star at the very beginning of the movie star ages, and people would not only just watch movies that were black and white, they were without sound kind of in this time period. They started doing sound in about the 1930s. They were very popular, and people start listening to radio. They listen directly to their leaders. So what they are starting to do is have more massive communication, and in this communication, they're feeling more and more uncertain about the world. And that's kind of the theme that leads people in Europe especially to look for strong leaders, because when you're uncertain and you feel disillusioned, you want someone to kind of lead you. And they turn to stronger leaders like Stalin and Mussolini, and unfortunately Hitler as well because of that. All right, thanks. Bye.